There's two ways of looking at recruitment, isn't there? There's the bit from like a personal aspect of, people themselves using a recruiter to find a new job. And then obviously the company aspect. One of the topics that really comes up at the moment is the new like TikTok hype. And like everyone's an expert in everything on TikTok. And Taahir is the same age as me, but in some ways much, much older than me, and will not jump on the TikTok hype. But TikTok basically is telling people at the moment with recruiters that they should be keeping secrets, advising them on sort of how to handle recruiters in a process. And it's hilarious. It's like, don't tell them what money you're earning. Don't do that. Don't tell them what you want. Just tell them to tell you what they're doing. And really, it's like, it's a two-way street, isn't it? We're all on the same team ultimately in terms of finding new roles, finding people like positive matches. And they're basically advising people on working with nothing.
Hey, we got another great episode for you here today. This time we have two guests on the show. We have Lexie Stratford and Taahir Patel, and they are both recruiters, and they've come on and they're going to share a lot of really hot takes. We're going to debunk some TikTok myths. So it's going to be pretty exciting. I think there's some good stuff, a lot of good learnings. Nick, what do you want to take away?
Yeah, really enjoyed this one. Learn lots, even learn a bit about some of the silly mistakes I made when working with recruiters when I first started hiring as a hiring manager. I wished I'd heard some of this in advance. So yeah, I'm looking forward to others getting that experience early.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. All right, let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to the show. We're pumped to have you both here.
Thanks for having us, Harrison. It's really good to be here.
Yeah, great to be here.
Yeah, and I think we have a special session here today where we have two of you on as guests. So it's four of us in total on the show, which means that we get to hear two funny stories that have happened in somebody's career. So Lexie, you want to kick us off and give us yours?
Yeah, sure. So it was early on in sort of the recruitment game, and I had a particular instance where a client rang us and was like, this person's not turned up for our interview that was meant to be over Zoom. I was like, oh God, I need to fix this, I need to sort it. Rang the candidate, you've got an interview now, meant to be on a Zoom call. And he was like, completely forgot, I'll go on it now. Gets on the Zoom call. I can see that they've both entered the Zoom. So I'm like, great, it's happening. And then get a call from the client 5 minutes after. I've left the Zoom call. And I was like, okay. He had some light shining in behind him. And so he got up to close the curtains and he was wearing a t-shirt and just a pair of Y-fronts. And it was a good lesson in you could never under-prep someone. You do have to tell them to wear a full outfit like a normal interview, because apparently there's no obvious things, is there? You should always wear trousers.
That is, well, I mean, this happened, like, I think a lot early COVID for people. I mean, but yeah, that is just, that's wild.
Yeah, I think we're talking like 2021. So we were hopefully quite used to the Zoom calls at that point. But definitely a lesson for me in never assuming that people are going to do anything.
You should have. I always thought that. What I took from that was to wear nice underwear if you're going to do it, not do that.
You wear your Batman underwear.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. All right, Taahir, what do you got for us?
Do you know what? I haven't written down. I've drawn a blank. Do you know what mine was?
Yours was. It was about assuming something, but what was it?
Oh yes, it was. So I had many, but I had to choose the right one because there's just so many to choose from. But this one was quite interesting, where I was working on a position and there was a candidate who had the green banner on, open to work, looked great for the position. I knew what his previous company paid, so I knew I was going to give him this opportunity, was going to offer him a pay rise. Looked great. I sent him a message saying, literally, I'm looking for you, basically. He sent me an article which was, this is why you shouldn't work with Indian recruiters. And then it just blocked me.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
That is wild.
It was one of those days where there's very few moments in our lives where I think we are genuinely speechless, where we both just sat there and were like, I can't believe it. And the guy, it was like a company that is like direct competitor in the space, all of that. And it's like assuming there that whatever he's assumed from the name has done himself out of things, but also,
Well, one, I can't believe this guy did that. But then two, I can't believe somebody wrote an article about that. Like that is just like,
yeah. It's on Google if anyone wants to have a read.
Yeah, there's genuinely like a huge article on it. But I can't remember what the website was. And he just sent me, and I was like, all right, great, thank you.
And that's how he kicked off our Wednesday.
He should have done is then gone to another recruiter with a English-sounding name, told him what the job was, how much pay rise it was, and when he said, I'm interested, he goes, sorry, we're not. And just...
It's funny you say that. When I first started recruitment, my first manager told me to have a different persona when talking to gatekeepers and other people. So I had a different persona, which was Raj Khan. With a
really considered slow voice.
Yeah, which is the complete opposite to me. But hey,
yeah, that's funny.
That's bad.
All right, well, let's dig into what we wanted to talk about today, and we're going to dig into hot takes around recruiting. So I know you've got a few that you want to hit us with. So why don't you kick it off? Pick one of them.
Yeah, I think there's two ways of looking at recruitment, isn't there? There's the bit from like a personal aspect of people themselves using a recruiter to find a new job, and then obviously the company aspect. When we were discussing what we were going to talk about, I think one of the topics that really comes up at the moment is the new like TikTok hype, and like everyone's an expert in everything on TikTok. And Taahir is the same age as me, but in some ways much, much older than me, and will not jump on the TikTok hype. But TikTok basically is telling people at the moment with recruiters that they should be keeping secrets, advising them on sort of how to handle recruiters in a process. And it's hilarious. It's like, don't tell them what money you're earning. Don't do that. Don't tell them what you want. Just tell them to tell you what they're doing. And really, it's like, it's a two-way street, isn't it? We're all on the same team ultimately in terms of finding new roles, finding people like positive matches. And they're basically advising people on working with nothing.
Do you know why? Do you know like where it's coming from or kind of what's prompting it?
Well, I think it is like, it stems a little bit from like, I think people think that we're like going to try and push the salaries down. So we're looking for
like
people.
You're the person on the hiring side that's trying to drive them down. That's so like different mentality. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So like if I tell you that I want X amount, they're not going to offer me a role that pays higher than that because I've already told them I want this amount. But in actual fact, it sort of does the reverse where we can't send our clients a person that we don't know what money they earn and hope for the best. So we just can't tell you anything about what we're working on because we can't sort of shoot in the dark and be like, do you want this role? Maybe it pays this, maybe.
But also your job is to actually, like, if you're going to be callous and cold about it, right, you guys work on commission. So the better salary you get for a candidate, you're not going to overprice them because that's bad business for the client. But the better you get for them within that scale that they're willing to pay, the more you guys can make too, right? So it's just, it's counterintuitive.
Yeah, totally. We're on the same team.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a difference between recruiters that are external to the company and maybe like internal recruiters? Like if you're at a big company and you've got an army of internal recruiters, like talent acquisition folks, maybe, do you think that's kind of where the stigma is coming from? And so it's more about how do you educate on the differences between those two? Yeah,
I think a little bit. I think, that it's like there's a difference in the role, isn't there, between talent acquisition, you're acquiring talent, and a recruitment consultant where we're, actively advising and consulting with businesses on what their recruitment should be like and how to do it in the best way possible. So talent acquisition maybe have like a salary banding that they have to work with. And like, these are the parameters around it. But actually a lot of what we do is going to companies and saying, this sparkly person that you would like that fits your job bill, guess what? They're out of budget. They're out of budget by X amount. And, really actually feeding that back to them to make them realize, maybe we haven't got the salary right, or maybe we need to change our expectations.
Yeah, it's like, I remember going through this same process when we were hiring people. It's the, you have your expectations of what you think is like the market rate. And I don't know, you can pull these off of the internet. A lot of people just go Google it, figure it out. Mm-hmm. And like, oh yeah, I think this is right. Yeah. But then when you actually go out into the job search, you determine that, oh, actually, these people are not as experienced as we need. And so not only do we need to like change our job description or who we're going after from an experience perspective, we also have to now change the pay band and expectations. But then like the downstream impacts that on the company are, hey, we budgeted for, these roles at this price. So now if you're telling me it's going to be, I don't know, actually 10% more, right? Okay, now you lose a head count or something, right? So there's this like weird like push a pull that you have to play with that game.
And I think it's especially strange in like the post-COVID world. Like we went through like a weird phase in like 2021 where like post-COVID, everyone was hiring and no one wanted to move. So then the people that were moving were getting crazy pay rises. So for one role, you can speak to someone who's on one salary, and then you can literally speak to someone with the same experience but moved at the right time who is on exponentially more. And that then changes it even more when then one person's definition of market rate is not the same as another, especially in sort of these times where it's gone crazy a little bit over the past couple of years.
Yeah, and I think I talk about this a lot with people I've mentored and trained in sales, and it's the same for scientists, and they talk about how they want their projects to go. The ethos now of fail fast. You have a limited amount of resource. If you fail fast in the ones that are not right, that gives you more time to put into the resource that ones are right. So the more I tell you, the more you can triage to the ones that are in that sweet spot and essentially fail with the ones that don't hit my budget needs, don't hit my experience needs. So all of these kind of things. Whereas otherwise, you could just be sending me stuff that's half the salary I'm expecting or in an industry I never want to touch. It seems completely counterintuitive, but this is coming from someone that I just don't apply for jobs direct. I would take it and give it to a recruiter rather than apply.
Yeah. I think it's a very strange thing. There's definitely reasoning behind it that they like go into on these little TikToks that clearly are coming up on people's things, because it's more and more of a thing that we're encountering where people just say market rate or like, I shouldn't have to tell you. But it is definitely a thing at the moment where there's reasoning behind it, but the reasoning definitely isn't totally sound.
I think logically it makes sense, the TikToks, and obviously the creators are making it because they want to get views or maybe educate. Maybe they think that they're doing the right thing, but the reality is, if you choose a trusted recruiter that you believe understands what you're looking for, the market, the industry, if you trust them, they're given the information they need to help you.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. It would mean the world to us if you could help spread the word by sharing it with someone you know. Succession is a life science sales membership that includes on-demand courses to up-level your sales skills, resources to plan and execute your sales process, community for peer-to-peer networking and learning, and live workshops delivered twice a month. You can get access to all of this as an individual for just $79 a month, or up-level your entire team with customized learning paths built for each individual rep. Come join us at succession.bio. Well, I think that's a good point as well, which leads me into another thought, or maybe even a hot take, which is the easy apply button on LinkedIn. Like, I think that is horrible. And not only for like companies that like it's making it so easy for any random person to apply for these jobs. So you have hiring recruiters that are just bombarded with all of these resumes. And, I don't know, maybe the well-intentioned people that are good, they're not able to shine through in that process. Yeah. And so you mentioned about trying to like work with good recruiters. Well, recruiters have those connections at the company and can get you directly in the door. So do you actually recommend, if you're an individual and you're trying to get a new job, instead of going and hitting easy apply on like 1,000 different companies that you're just hoping to get, one of them to look at your resume, you recommend reach out proactively to recruiters to work with them and find the ones that you can trust where you feel comfortable giving them that information?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the other points that me and Lexie discussed, I guess, when we were prepping, which was, when you are first on the job market, your resume is sparkly and special and it's unseen, it's rare, it's new. The moment you start easy apply or maybe sending it to recruiters that you haven't vetted properly and it ends up in everyone's, I guess, inbox or files or whatever, it's no longer sparkly, it's no longer new. Even if you're right for the position, the almost immediate thought is, this guy again.
Yeah, your personal brand can get ruined really quickly. I've seen people that like click that easy apply because they just want to get like their profile in front of a company rather than because they're right for the role. But like, it's that age-old thing, like desperation does stink. And like, it is the more people see your thing around, the more it's like, you could be an incredible salesperson, absolutely incredible, have this resume that is chock full of you beating your number, building territories, all the whole 9 yards. But actually, you now are not as good as you think because people think, why has this guy not got a job yet? Why am I seeing this guy's resume every corner I turn? Every email I open from a recruiter is this guy. Like, because it's quite easy to dilute that personal brand, and that easy apply is like, it's the easiest way to dilute that brand, basically.
Cool. That's quite similar to the housing. I've been looking for a house recently, and that's exactly what an estate agent told me about houses. You need your house to be sold within 6 weeks. Otherwise, you're in that non-new section and just scrolling through Rightmove. So that's quite a similar thing. The other thing I'd say is that if you're hitting that easy apply, I don't think a lot of people realize that many of these companies now don't have resource to scroll through them. And they actually have platforms that do it for them, looking for keywords. So you could be the best, but if you're like me and dyslexic and probably use language of an 8-year-old, you're not going to shine, even though you could be decent at what you do.
Yeah, I think
you're using language as an 8-year-old has nothing to do with being dyslexic.
It's stupid, right?
Yeah.
I speak to American. Turn it down.
It's genuinely terrifying, I think, the amount of companies that we speak to who just post a role because they have to post the role. And so, like, I have worked with companies who have posted the role because, like, it's a legal requirement. They have to post the role, or they have to, like, be seen to be hiring for the role, even though it's with the recruiter exclusively. And actually, if you're just applying on LinkedIn, sometimes you will be missing out on them because they're just not looking in that inbox, or they'll look in the inbox, like you say, for the keywords. And if you haven't got the sparkling keywords on your resume, even though you've maybe done it for 20 years, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think too, it could also be internal hires. If somebody wants to hire somebody internally, they may be legally obligated to put that job posting out there, but I have no intention of actually going through with it. Makes a lot of sense. So, like, have you seen, I guess, what have you guys seen be most successful for, like, sales reps or business development, where your job is to go out and actively, like, find prospects and prospect to them to get meetings? Do you see that working well for sales from a hiring perspective as well?
Yeah, definitely. I think the bit that the people, on, their front in terms of, like, how they can prospect themselves the best, it is to pick, like, a few people, recruiters that you really trust, and to go through it in that process and actually, like, make sure that, you're absolutely fine to vet a recruiter. Like, who do they work with? Like, LinkedIn is great for recruiters in terms of, like, at the bottom of everyone's page, there's, like, recommendations and stuff. A red flag to me is if someone's not got any recommendations. Like, how have you not got anyone to give you any?
But that's almost, you have to, like, click the button to, like, send out these recommendations. Like, hey, will you recommend me for these things? Yeah. But why? Like, I don't know why that would be a red flag, because I don't decide I want to, have random people. I don't want to have these people right on my LinkedIn. Why would that be a red flag?
No, not for a candidate, but for you picking a recruiter. So,
for you picking a recruiter. Got it. Okay.
So, like, when they're picking someone, you should be looking at, like, who they've placed, what sort of people they've placed, what sort of companies they've placed into. And, like, those recommendations give you a really good idea of that. And actually then they're the people that you should be trusting and prospecting you out. Do they know the space that you want to work in? Do they know the key players within the space that you're working in? And, like, I think befriending people on LinkedIn is, like, a really good, like, tool to use, because point one, loads of them share news. So actually you're seeing what all your competitors are doing without even having to try. But also point two, you're going to start building out a sort of idea of the person before you have to work with them, of, who do they speak to on LinkedIn? Who do they converse with? And what are they up to? Are they actively involved within the industry?
And I imagine you should probably start building these relationships, even if you're comfortable in your current role. Like, you might be happy, but something could change at some point in time. So you're better off, I think, having these relationships ahead of time, building those relationships with the recruiters to figure out the ones that you can trust. So then when the time comes to say, okay, I'm ready to look, which is inevitable, right? I mean, I don't think we're living in a world where we work at the same company for 50 years, like our parents. So, I think that's also, probably a really good strategy for people to deploy. It's just, like, always kind of be, looking, but it's more about, like, relationships with recruiters.
Yeah, I think it's about having an eye out there. Like, it's not, no one's committed to the same role like they used to be. There's not that, you see sort of an older generation that, like you said, had, like, 20 years at a company, 30 years at a company, did their whole career there. And actually, it's just not like that anymore. And if anything, like I would say for sort of people nowadays, if you're going to stay with a company for like probably more than like 8 years, you're probably actually doing yourself a disservice more than anything, because you're missing out on pay rises, you're missing out on progression. And if you then look for jobs after that point, you sort of look like something must have gone wrong there. And that's why you must be looking, rather than because you're great and you want something better.
Yeah, I think the only caveat I would put around that is that if you're still like a high growth company, right? I mean, it could take a long time for these companies to go public. So if you're starting early, like an early stage company, and you are growing with them throughout your time at that company, just because you're there for 8 years, like you guys might be on the precipice of like an IPO, you might have just IPO'd, who knows? I think there's like a little bit of nuance, but I think to your point, if you're at maybe a more established company for an extended period of time, and maybe there isn't much career progression going on there, I would absolutely agree with what you're
saying. If you're seeing the progression within the business and you're going from sort of, one role to the next over those years, then it definitely is very different. But the people that we see that have maybe are those larger, more, established brands that have been there for a longer time, you're definitely doing yourself, in terms of the hiring managers we talk to, there is like a certain uncertainty and uneasiness around people who have stayed for maybe too long.
Yeah. I think I was at, as an example of that, I was at AstraZeneca / MedImmune / CAT as it went through its acquisitions. But I was there for 9 years. And looking back, I stayed for probably 4 to 4.5 years too long. Right. I was just there too long. And it just like that. If I'd have moved on, I think things would have. Yeah, when you move on, you saw that progression quicker, and I noticed it, and I moved around a bit to get that experience, and I agree with that completely.
I think a part of the reason for that is as well is, the question that I've had a hiring manager pose to me as well is, when someone's done really well in one company for a long time, take them out of the system, out of that environment, out of that brand, that product, can they still succeed? And it's a bit like, I don't know if you guys watch soccer, but Raheem Sterling and Pep Guardiola's system, amazing. Take him out of that system, not so much.
I agree. I only object to any of that is that you said soccer. I'm not accepting that. It's football.
I said I'm the only one here that can say soccer.
Yeah. I said it for Harrison, to be honest.
Harrison played American football.
Down to me. Just talk it down to me so I can understand him.
Harrison played American football, but he's the only person that's probably in the team that is allowed to quit football because he kicked it. The rest of them throw it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Very fair.
Yeah, that's good. So one thing that we did mention is that if you're an individual looking for a job, it's good to have multiple recruiters. But what if we flip that and we say, hey, you're the hiring manager. Is it a good idea to have multiple recruiters and get a bunch of them to go after a particular role?
So I've got a great analogy for that. I think it's something I haven't used yet in as an objection handle, because I think maybe it's a bit too direct. But my analogy is, if you were on trial for murder, hypothetically, would you want a public defender to represent you, where their attention is split across 5, 10 different cases, and they're not incentivized to find you the best solution? Or would you want a retained recruiter that is incentivized to find you the best solution no matter what, and their sole focus is you and your problem?
That's a really good analogy. I don't know that many people would make that one. That's good. I like it a lot. Hot take.
Yeah. I think the first time I ever tried to objection handle using multiple recruiters, I mean, I was very early in my sales career, but I said, you don't cut your own hair or do your own taxes, so why do you do your own recruitment? And then I quickly realized that's probably not the way to handle that objection.
You should use the public defender one. It's not too direct. I'm very direct in my objection handling, so maybe not the best person to call, but I think it's too soft. Go harder.
Yeah, you're already guilty.
Yeah. You're sitting in the chair. Who do you want to defend you? No.
Me or Raheem Sterling? Come on.
No, I think it is a weird nuance of recruitment where companies do think that if they have multiple recruiters, it's all going to happen quicker. They're like, well, now I've got 4 people working on it, so I'm going to get 4 times the amount of candidates. Everyone's going to be in process really quick, and it'll be fine. I'll sort it in a month. And it just doesn't happen because, like Taahir said, you've got attention split. Because if I'm working against 3 other people, I can't give you my undivided attention because, much like salespeople, we've got KPIs to hit, we've got targets to hit. But then also it is ultimately a race to the finish line if you've got multiple recruiters working on one role. So you're going to get the people that are easiest to find, which are probably the ones that are open to work, actively applying. And there's nothing wrong with those people, but you're maybe not going to find the people that are those unicorn candidates that are, maybe not looking, that have to be pursued to get to actually speak to them about a role.
Which most of the time in sales, those people have jobs. Right? Yeah. Most of the time, the best reps have jobs because they are the best. And even if you're going to go through a reduction in force, most of the time, there are exceptions, but most of the time, the best reps stay around.
Yeah, exactly. So you're not going to get the people that are, setting the world on fire most of the time, because you're going to get the people who the recruiters, maybe got actively available that they can send right there, right now. Not the person that fits the job brief, because they're probably not going to do a full extensive search specifically for you. And I think that that's something that people get maybe a little bit confused by, is the fact that it just doesn't make sense for people to give that much time to it. The people that get our undivided attention, and the people that are exclusive, or the people that are retained, definitely, because we know that we can sort of count on that business coming in. You're not going to, no one's going and pitching for the same role and hoping that they're all going to get it. It is one of those things where you have to sort of spread yourself sensibly almost.
And like you said about the best reps don't leave without another position, because the best reps have a pipeline that's going to give them bonuses. Yeah. So they stick around till the end of each of those bonuses, and you get halfway through a quarter, they're not leaving again because they've already started their bonus process. So you need to actively recruit these people, and you guys obviously have the network to do that. I've made the mistake in hiring of thinking I want multiple recruiters, and it's because I thought I had more people working on it, but one of the things I thought is I have a bigger network. Because each of you have a network, therefore you have access to a network. And that was my thought. But I've also come around to I should use one person that is dedicated and driving for this, and then assess them. And if they're not good, you switch to the next dedicated person. I think that's the better approach.
And I think that bigger network idea as well is sometimes also counterintuitive, in that a bigger network doesn't necessarily mean a better network. Because actually you would rather have a small network that is really dedicated to that one area. And, the way I say it to clients quite often is like, working with one recruiter, you know exactly who is spreading your brand to market. And so if there's something weird that comes around where someone contacts you and is like, I've heard this about your company, you know exactly who it's come from, because you're working with one recruiter. So you really have that control over your brand image. And so your brand image is only going to a small part of the network that is relevant, and it's not getting diluted by multiple recruiters trying to sort of race to the finish line and get the candidate first always.
Which they're going to send the same message to the same person. Like if you have 5 recruiters, like the same person might get all 5, because you probably have the same search filters in LinkedIn recruiting that's going to reach out to those people, which is not going to be a good candidate experience when you then jump on a call with all 5 of these people and like, hey, I want to pitch on this role for, company X, and it's the same one.
Yeah. So what was really weird the other day is I had someone contact me and go, Nick, someone's just contacted me about a role that you're advertising for. This looks like it's you, is it? Because it must be the company. And it was a recruiter that wasn't working for me. We have an exclusive agreement with a different recruiter, and they'd gone out proactively trying to look for a job that they've heard about and sell it to somebody else.
Wow. That is, you do get that. I actually encountered the opposite of that not that long ago, in that I'm an exclusive recruiter for a company, and I contacted someone and they went, I've already spoken to the recruiter about this. And I went, no, you haven't. That's me.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, no, I have. I've submitted my resume. And I was like, you definitely haven't. I can tell you.
What that recruiter's done is they've anonymized it and sent it through as a teaser.
Yeah. It is. There definitely is some people out there that are recruitment-wise looking for some quick wins. And I think that's why, both on a personal note, but also, if you're recruiting for your own company, you shouldn't be afraid to actually be vetting the people you're working with, and really be making sure that, the people you're working with are the people you want to work with, not just who you found to work with.
Because on that, like, I'm gonna carry on Lexie's note and go back as well. Like, I actually believe that this today, it doesn't matter how big your network is or how big a recruiter's network is, because if you type in the right keywords on LinkedIn, everyone's got a great network. So the reality is, my network's just as big as yours, and even though you've got much more experience in the market, the guy who just started recruitment yesterday probably has got the same size network as me. But what actually matters is, can you get that person on the phone? And when you get them on the phone, can you get them interested in your opportunity? And so I actually said this to a new client of mine, and they said, okay, then pitch me my company. And it was a bit daunting at first, but luckily I prepped well, and I knew exactly how to pitch the company, and I did, and I managed to win the retainer because of that. Because I said, because I genuinely believe it's not about who's got the best network, but who can represent your brand the best. Who do you trust to get the right people on the phone, and who do you trust that can actually sell your company the opportunity and get the right people to the table? Because that's my job. My job isn't to really help get you someone to hire, but is to get you a talent pool of people interested in your company, and then to help you close them. That's our job, really.
Yeah, it was incredible when he had to pitch this company to themselves. We had a few dress rehearsals. But genuinely, I think it's one of the best tactics I think I've seen from a client in terms of making sure you're happy with the person that's going to market. Because what better way to sort of understand what's going out there than to be like, show me.
Yeah, great tip, great technique. We're running up here on time, but I think you guys have shared like so many awesome tips and tricks for everybody, both on the company side and on the individual side. I think we busted a couple of these TikTok myths as well. But yeah, we really appreciate you both coming on here. If people want to get in touch, maybe they're looking to make a change in their career, how should they reach you guys?
Yeah, so we're both at CSG Talent. We both on LinkedIn. I'm Lexie Stratford, and that's Taahir Patel. And our emails are literally our first name dot surname at csgtalent.com.
I use Twitter as well. I'm not the most social media savvy, but I'm trying.
All right, that's good. Awesome. Well, appreciate you both coming on today and sharing your wisdom with everybody.